OB57, also known as Birds of Prey, is just around the corner and is currently on the PTS and should be live on Wednesday. Now it has a new champion called Strix, but today I'm going to be focusing on all the gameplay changes and all the other changes they've made to this patch. Sit tight as I break down OB57. So one of the most annoying things in OB56 was the ridiculousness of the profanity filter. They pretty much censored any word that had ing in it, so you couldn't even say running or winning. It just blurred it out and it looked actually like you were being rude because it censored it and it made it look like you were swearing at somebody. But now, thankfully, they've made a use profanity filter setting at the bottom of the gameplay options menu, so pretty much everybody go out there and tick that box off because everyone here is probably over the age of 10, and if not, you've probably already heard most of the bad words anyway. They've also made it that when you get attacked, your character will do a voice call out, so if the Kinesa's standing there thinking they're American Sniper, they'll hopefully realize that they're being attacked when this voice call out goes off, but we'll just have to see whether that works or not. One massive one is that new champions that come to the realm will be banned in competitive mode for 2 weeks. Now that's pretty much a new patch cycle, so there's a patch every 2 weeks, so we'll have until the next patch for the champion to be usable in competitive. I think this is good because it means that a champion, if they are overpowered and they come out and people are picking them all the time, that they're not going to wreck the matches and the balance, or if they're rubbish and need tweaking and need maybe a little bit of a rework before they are perfect, then people aren't picking them up just because they're the new champion and people want to play rank with them. Another great thing they're adding is that when an action is taken against a player that you've reported, there'll be a message in Notification Center and in chat. So now people trying to report people for banning will hopefully get some feedback and know whether or not hi-rez are actually doing anything about it. It's a shame there's not more of a detailed option for reporting somebody for hacking with maybe speed hack, aim hack, etc. They've also added a new option to make reticle change over targets, so when the reticle would change color for an enemy like red, then you can turn that on or off whether you want it or not. I think it's generally a good thing, so probably want it. Some more champion-specific general changes are, first of all, champions without reload, so I'm looking at you, Charlene, and Grover, people that pick up jet hands for trolling, can no longer buy that item. So hopefully, one thing it'll change is auto-buy, so there's never going to be a moment where it's embarrassing when new players have that option turned on and they get deft hands when they can't use it, and B, people won't get trapped thinking they can reload faster, or it works because a lot of people think that on Charlene or Grover it means that the firing between axes or between arrows is going to be quicker, but that just isn't the case. So now nobody can make that mistake, which is a great change. There's also some jankiness with root and void grip, which they've sorted out, so it's more simple and related to cripple to determine what abilities it works against. Getting into the nitty gritty of the balancing of champions, there's actually several quite big almost reworks for the champions in the realm at the moment. The biggest one is most likely to Lex. So the magnums are now semi-automatic, and the time between shots has been reduced from 0.7 seconds to 0.35 seconds, so they fire twice as fast, but the damage has been reduced from 680 to 400. So if you do the maths, you actually do more damage per second. However, there's some downsides. One of the other big things as well, a plus, is you have ammo count going from 6 to 10, but it loses accuracy when firing repeatedly. So if you actually fire it off and you notice the pattern, it will basically start firing more randomly in a cone of fire once you start shooting, if you basically go towards the end of the magazine. The idea here is changing Lex from being able to poke people from far away, acting more as a damage dealer, more like Leanne and Cassie, but worse, to an actual flanker this time around, because you're going to be wanting to get close into somebody so you can fire as fast as possible, and basically if you're close to somebody, even the cone of fire won't really matter because their body will be big enough so you'll hit all of your shots. They also changed another legendary card to sort of work alongside this, and that's Heroism. Now it gives you 90% damage reduction and CC immunity whilst using the combat slide, which is a lot like the battering ram for Ashe, but the only thing with Ashe is that it makes a lot of sense because when you've got the shoulder bash, then you have an animation before you actually bash, so you're vulnerable when you do that, whereas in Lex it's not so much the case. You can still shoot whilst you're sliding, but with the slide it's quite hard to hit a Lex, and whether it'll have that much effect I'm not entirely sure, as in like Leanne, Cassie and Lex, it's pretty darn hard to hit them whilst they're moving around. I do think it's generally a good change to Lex just because he pretty much did what Leanne and Cassie did and act as a damage dealer rather than a flanker, and I think this is giving him more of a unique identity, but we'll have to see just how it plays out in the patch. Ruckus has also got a massive change to their champion, and they've had a rework basically. So repulsor field is completely gone, and that's all that gave damage reduction, and you use it in an area and it does it yourself. Now they've changed emitter, so instead of being a alternate fire, it's gone to ability 1, and the right click now instead is a missile launcher. So you fire off 2 missiles, and they do 250 damage each in a large area. Most of the time you're going to be doing 500 damage to single targets, or if you're hitting into a group, then you'll probably get both the ticks off. It's quite a lot of burst damage adding onto your normal fire, and you can fire these whilst you're wound up and fully using your machine guns. So whilst Ruckus has lost some survivability in his repulsor field and some of his team survivability, he has gained quite a bit more burst damage, and that's sort of the role he's been played as in the most recent patches, and probably is going to keep him still in the meta. I don't think it's going to knock him out just because he's lost a bit of survivability. They did give an option for him to be more tanky as well with Flux Generator, increasing the shielding of emitter by 50%, so it goes from 3,000 to 4,500, which is a sizable amount. However, being able to fly is something hard to pass off with the legendary cards. There's also normal cards being reworked, so Metal March has gone to Missile Launcher, which gains 5, 10, 15 or 20% damage reduction for 3 seconds after activating the Missile Launcher, so almost using Repulsor Field just on yourself. At the ready is reworked, so Missile Launcher hits an enemy with Missile Launcher, revealing them for 1, 2, 3 or 4 seconds. This could be a card where you might put 1 level of it into your deck, and it's always nice to reveal somebody for a second just to see where they retreat to or which way they're moving. Crystal Capacitor, Missile Launcher again, reduce the cooldown of Missile Launcher by 0.5, 1, 1.5 or 2 seconds. So just basically making you have this Missile Launcher more often, adding to the DPS. An Opulence, again Missile Launcher, heal for 75, 150, 225 or 300 health when you activate the Missile Launcher, so some self-sustain there, and maybe you could swap that out for the Emitter heal. I do actually quite like some of the balancing here that hi-rez are doing. They're basically nerfing some things but buffing other aspects of the champions as well, and that playoff can be seen in quite a few of the champions. It's not just necessarily a direct nerf. So Ying's rework this time round takes form in their ultimate. So instead of spawning the little pools of healing, like the discs of healing that you could stand in an area, they now apply a global buff on all allies that heals them for 600 health per second for 8 seconds. And on the stream, it was applied to yourself still. So that's 4,800 damage over those 8 seconds, which is a huge heal, pretty much giving everybody their maximum health back over the duration. And I mean, even if you get cauterized at the start of a fight and you get away or hide, you're going to get healed up afterwards quite a lot. So this is a big deal. It's a big ultimate. And now when you use Dimensional Link, you'll be able to jump over to the players instead of the illusion, so you jump to an ally player, whilst the Illusory Rift, your ultimate, is active. I think it's just generally a nice little buff for Ying. Their heal is pretty huge on the ultimate, but I still feel that maybe her kit is a little bit on the weaker side this patch, but I mean, it's a nudge in the right direction, and we'll see how they play out throughout this patch. So Fernando's had a few changes and tweaks, and there are positives and negatives. So the positive is in charge. So the charge now passes through shields. However, its cooldown is increased from 8 to 10 seconds. So one of the most annoying things with Fernando was fighting another shield champion, hitting that shield and being like, that's ruined my maneuverability. So that's nice that you can pass through things now, but it does take away some of your flanking potential because it has a longer cooldown. One nerf is to Fireball. It no longer gives that 50% reduced healing, which was kind of what made him very powerful. With the Scorched Legendary card and being able to basically fire Fireballs off all the time, you had most enemies that you were fighting on 50% reduction of healing a lot of the time. However, whilst that's a direct nerf to an ability, they have reworked a card called Brand to make Fireballs reduce healing by 20, 40, 60 or 80%, so you could even have 80% cauterize on your Fireballs, which could help out a lot. It also makes the card more valuable, as the first level is what it used to be, so you used to be able to buff up the Fireballs to 70%, but it kind of makes a level 3 of this card quite powerful. And whilst it has nerfed Fernando's ability, it's still the option there, so it's not a huge ham-fisted nerf. One other nerf is to Genos. So Genos has been doing ridiculous healing this patch. People have been getting 200k healing pretty easily in a lot of matches. And this time around, what they've done is they've made healing reduce. What they've done for Astromark is reduce healing from 250 per second to 220 per second. So it's only a small nerf, but as you have it in the duration of the Astromarks that you're putting out, it is quite a big reduction in the healing. It will probably go some way to bringing down the level that Genos is at the moment, especially the Genos isn't so fun when you are going against loads of enemies that basically stand behind a wall and are healing allies all of the time, and you can't really do much about them. And also, Stellar Wind has been nerfed a little bit in response to this sort of playstyle as well, going from 75% speed to 65% speed. So it was hard to come around a corner, try and shoot down a Genos. They might be able to just move away or move back to their allies if you do catch them out as a flanker. So that sort of nerfed that down a little bit. So I think Genos will probably be more in level with the other main healers at the moment. And we'll just have to see whether or not they're knocked out by Moldamba and Ceres. Skye has also had a big change. So the rework is to the poison bolts. So they've made the duration be reduced from 5 to 4 seconds, which basically means that the damage will tick faster. They've also increased the tick frequency from 1 second to 0.2 seconds, and the damage is now 0.5% per tick, but still 10% over the duration of each poison bolt. So, in theory, you'll do more damage over a shorter amount of time, which does make sense from the perspective of being a flank player. You want to have more burst damage on enemy targets. However, one downside of it is that it no longer reduces healing, which was quite a big deal with the poison bolts before. Especially at the start of the game, the Skye would be quite good because you wouldn't have Cauterize ready, so you'd be using that as a tool to stop enemies from being healed before you had a chance to take them down. As a flank, you want to burst somebody down as quickly as possible, and that stopped that. However, like Fernando, that has been taken into a card and basically buffing Decrepify. This time around now, the poison bolts reduce healing by 20, 40, 60 or 80% for 3 seconds. So again, you could choose to have 80% Cauterize on this poison bolt, and poison bolts can be fired every 4 seconds, so you can get that up pretty often if you have the right cards. They also changed the legendary card Debilitate. This is the one that used to give you 20% extra damage whilst the poison bolts were on an enemy. Now the poison bolts damage over time deals 33% more damage twice as fast. So it will be doing 40% damage. So if you hit all of the poison bolts, it'll do 40% damage over 2 seconds, which is pretty huge, and means that you can burst down some of the bigger targets in the game. And Skye is going to basically be a tank killer, or at least really softening them up for your ally players to take down. Because obviously they have the biggest health balls, it will mean that you'll get the most value out of it. However, on all enemy players too, just generally, it's a quicker takedown of 40% of their health and added burst to your attacks. They also changed Surprise Attack, going from 300 damage from your first shot after you come out of Hidden to 500. I still don't think this one will be picked up really. I think Debilitate this time round was probably going to be the choice pickup, and we might see Skye played a little bit differently, although a lot of the core problems with Skye still exist, but we'll just have to see whether or not this buff is enough to make her more viable. Lian has also got a flat nerf to the legendary card Precision. It no longer grants increased damage. So one of the big things with Lian is that pretty much everybody was picking up Precision. It reloads your weapon and also gave you extra damage, and Lian's in games were getting huge amounts of damage, quite akin to what you'd normally see from a Drogos, but they didn't have the same problem of Drogos in that they've struggled to finish people off, which Lian kind of excelled at because they had quite fast firing hit scan shots. So this should bring Lian a bit more in line, but I don't think it'll necessarily drop her out of the meta or anything. Maybe it'll make Cassie better pick higher tier damage champion than Lian this time around, maybe making Cassie the #1. Maeve's just got a bug fixed where Maeve's weapons would be fired slightly slower at lower frame rates, so I didn't really have that problem because my PC is quite beefy and my frame rates are pretty good, so I guess that's good for everybody that was struggling with frame rates out there, but it's unfortunate that Maeve hasn't actually had any buffs this patch, seeing as she's been out of the meta for so long. Makoa's got a fix as well, a bug where you shoot your weapon before hooking sometimes will cancel the hook, so that's nice. It's a slight nudge to Makoa. I actually had that happen to me a few times, and Makoa was still good in the patch, so it's just a nice little nudge. I don't think it's going to bring him up or anything. And that was pretty much all of the nitty-gritty balancing changes. Mostly good, I would say, this patch. We'll just have to see how the Skye one plays out and whether or not it's going to wreck face in casual matches and people are going to get angry, or if it'll have any change on the fact that Skye's not been in competitive meta or in high-skilled matches at all. The damage champions this time around, I don't think enough of them have been nerfed and in their mobility to bring the flankers back into the meta. I'm not sure there. And also there's been quite a few skins added this patch, but I think I'm going to cover them in more detail in another video. I'll probably do a chest opening and just have a look at all the skins, maybe play a match with them. But we've got the Victor V1 Kator epic skin with that voice pack, which has loads of references to Halo and to Doom and to Warhammer 40k and other things like that. And they do look like they've come out of Doom, but maybe slashed up with a Halo character. Pretty awesome. Then also Lex has got a sci-fi-esque suit as well, and it's got quite a cheeky voice pack. Pretty awesome. Inara's got an uncommon skin, just a Sunstone one. Cassie's got a mastery skins, and so has Inara. Anyway, that was pretty much OB57 in a nutshell and broken down for you all. What does everybody else think of this patch? Are you happy with the balancing changes? What do you all think about Strix? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more of my content, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, folks. Just so you know.